All right. Hey guys, Tony Maritato here. So I've been getting a bunch of questions from you guys about par versus non-par related to Medicare, how reimbursement works, what are the pros and cons. So I figured, you know what? I'm just going to jump on live. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to record it and then we'll archive it so that people in the future kind of get the gist of it. Obviously, in something like this, I can't cover everything, but I will do my best to cover the main part. So let me see if I can pull up my live on the phone, and then I'm gonna tag, I can't tag everybody, but see if I can tag anyone. Here we go. Give me 1 second. And I'm gonna try and take you guys, like I pre-created some stuff. What's up, Damon? All right, let's see what we can do here. So big issue. This is a great kind of resource. I use this as my point of reference so everybody understands what's the difference between participating, non-participating. For this particular live stream, I'm not going to touch on the difference between par, non-par, and unaffiliated or not contracted. So let's just go with this. And really the big thing that I'm going to look at here, I'll just pull out the highlights. So as a participating provider, the biggest issue is you are required to submit claims to Medicare, right? Well, guess what? You're required to submit claims to Medicare whether you're par or non-par. Your charges are subject to the limiting charge. I'm going to show you guys what that means. Basically, as a par provider, you're limited to the allowed amount. As a non-par provider, assuming you do not accept assignment as a non-par provider, you can charge up to 150%, 15% of the allowed amount. I'm going to show you how to calculate that in a second. As a non-par provider, you have the option of not accepting assignment. Now, the problem here is, yes, you can charge more. You can bill or collect from the beneficiary up to 115% of the allowed amount. The allowed amount for a non-par provider is 95% of the allowed amount for a par provider. Problem is, payment goes straight to the patient if you do not accept assignment. And what that means is you have to be incredibly efficient at charging, collecting, taking payment from the patient either at the time of service, preferably, or after service has been rendered, which gets a little more challenging. Something that I think people don't also take into account is if you're accepting payment from the patient, that means if you're accepting at the time of service, you're probably doing credit card. If you're doing credit card, you have credit card processing fees. You also have to look at the amount of time it takes you to collect that payment. Even if we're looking at something as simple as 2 minutes, think about this a second, 2 minutes a session to collect payment, issue a receipt, do whatever you need to do. I mean, 2 minutes is nothing. Add 2 minutes over 10 sessions, that's 20 minutes. Add that over however many, individuals and sessions you're doing a month, you're running into hours of time spent collecting payment. So not only are you paying those credit card processing fees, you're also spending hours of time collecting that payment, which in theory could be hours of time spent treating another patient. So just food for thought when we're looking at this. As a par provider, you are required to accept assignment, but that payment is coming directly to you. In most cases, that payment's coming directly into your bank account through electronic funds transfer, which means you're not paying a credit card fee. You don't have the extra administrative cost of collecting from the patient. Even if the patient pays you with a check, then you have to deposit the check. It's a trip to the bank, or you used a little phone app to do it. It's just extra work, and then you have that one patient who decides I'm not going to pay, or I'm going to wait 6 months before I pay. And you've got the added administrative burden of chasing down that patient, trying to collect payment, follow-up calls, threats for collections, like all the junk that none of us want to deal with. So obviously I'm biased. I'm pro becoming a provider because I think the benefit of the added percentage you might collect as a non-par doesn't outweigh the added headache and logistic challenge of being non-par. But if you have a phenomenal system in place to invoice and collect payment from your patient, then non-par might be right for you. The other component is I feel like when a patient hears, well, you're a participating provider, they have a sense of security. When a patient hears, well, you're not a participating provider, even though we understand you're still contracted with Medicare from the beneficiary's perspective, I think that puts up a red flag. And that says, whoa, what's going to happen here? This person is not participating. That, to me, that sounds like they don't accept Medicare. Obviously, we know different, but we're talking about the consumer here. So look at this list. I'll post this list in the comments for this video. Let's get into the juicy stuff. Let's look at the reimbursement. So if you guys, a couple of the questions I had, which I have videos on my YouTube channel, they're like, well, how do I find the allowed amounts? Let's just go through it. So if you type in into Google, CMS physician fee schedule, it will take you to the CMS website. I don't want to skip. Let me go back a second. So let's say you end up here. What you're looking for is the physician fee schedule lookup tool. And you can type that into Google. And when I find that, I click on it. It's going to take you to this overview. You're going to hit start the search. It's going to take you to this search criteria. I'm not seeing 2020 in here. Interesting. But anyway, so what you're going to do is you're looking for price information. You can do a range or a list. For simplicity purposes, I'll just grab a list. You want to choose your MAC by locality. And then I'm going to throw in kind of our, or at least my most common CPT codes. And I'm doing manual and massage just to stir up conversation. Let's do, okay, so we have exercise, moderate complexity eval, manual therapy, massage therapy, functional activity. We want to select all modifiers, and you want to choose your location. And so what I'm going to do here, let's see if I can find Florida, just because Chris was front and center in my mind when I decided to do this. So you guys probably see it. Maybe I won't choose Florida. If I can't find it, I'm not going to choose it. You know, we were in Florida between, okay, here. So we've got Fort Lauderdale, we've got Miami, we've got rest of Florida. I'm just going to go with rest of Florida. I know you're in Tampa. Let me just see. Yeah, Florida is kind of broken up. So let's just stick with rest of Florida. We were in Florida from 2002 through, I don't know, 2017, I think. Okay, so here we go. So we've got the year, pricing information, CPT codes, you got all your modifiers covered. What you're gonna see is a page like this. Now this information should be the same even if you go directly to your MAC to search for the fee schedule on their website. What we've got is we've got non-facility and we've got facility. Now, those of us, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and private practice speech therapists, those of us billing Medicare Part B, we're not an agency, we're not a hospital, we're gonna be non-facility. And what you see here is non-facility price. Now, I typically refer to this as the allowed amount for a PAR provider. Non-facility limiting charge is the maximum amount a non-PAR provider can collect from insurance and beneficiary, assuming you elect not to accept assignment. So let's do that one more time. Non-PAR or non-facility price. That's what always messes people up. Non-facility price are a participating provider, and this is your allowed amount. A non-facility limiting charge is you are a non-par provider, and this is the maximum you can collect from the beneficiary. Okay, let's do some math. So if I take this at 3092, I created this little spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in here 3092. That's the non-facility price. That's the allowed amount for a participating provider. I'm going to grab the limiting charge. So the 3378. Pop that in here, 3378. And what you see here is, so remember, as a par provider, theoretically, and I'll explain that in a second, I could collect up to $30.92. Assume, let's take a classic scenario. Patient is a Medicare beneficiary, obviously. They have a supplemental plan that covers the 20% that Medicare doesn't cover. I submit a claim for therapeutic exercise. I charge $50 a unit. Medicare will reduce my $50 charge by the difference between the 3092 and the 50. That would be called a contract adjustment. You know what? Let's do it real quick. I'm sure you guys came in for a math lesson. So this is the charge. The difference between this number and this number, this is what I would call a contract adjustment. This just gets written off. It could be called a discount by some third-party payers. There's different terminology for it, but this just kind of disappears. It's not money that's collected. It's not money you can bill anybody. It just goes away. Now what I'm left with is the 3092. In theory, in a perfect world, that's what I would be paid. 80% of that would come from Medicare, 20% would come from the supplemental. The problem is Medicare also has what's called an MPPR, which I've got another video about it. I'm not going to discuss it here, but that's a pretty significant reduction if you're billing more than a single unit of any intervention, the same or different, within a session. There's also sequestration, which is another federal reduction. And there might be some other little things that come into play here, but suffice it to say, for education purposes, in theory, as a par provider, you're going to be allowed to collect, $30.92. As a non-par provider, if I accept assignment, I'm only able to collect up to 95% of the allowed amount. So this is the most I can collect as a non-par provider. I'm going to make it yellow. And so this is if I accept assignment. This is if I want Medicare to pay me, not pay the patient, and if I want the supplemental to pay me, not pay the patient. That's it. That's the max. I can't balance bill the patient. I can't collect anything else as a non-par provider. Now, where people get attracted to the dollars is when you say, okay, I want to be non-par and not accept assignment. What does that look like? Okay, so basically what's going to happen is Medicare sets the allowed amount at 95% of what a par provider can collect. You can charge your patient up to, in theory, in a perfect world with no other reductions, $33.78. And what this number represents is the 95% of the allowed amount, the $29.37, times 115%. That's where this number comes from. So when you see, and I think they have it, usually they have it in here somewhere, where a non-par provider can charge up to 115% of the allowed amount. I guess I don't see it here right now, but if you look, you're going to see that pretty frequently. That's where that number is coming from. So you can just create a little form like this. This will help you kind of calculate out, and then if you want, you can come up and you can say like 80%, 20%, And I've got a whole video module in the course on how you make your own invoices to calculate in the situation where, let's say, a patient, a beneficiary, doesn't have a secondary, they only have Medicare Part B. And so you want to calculate out what their responsibility is on a particular session. You bring your fee schedule in, you do these calculations, and then you know, okay, if I'm doing 3 exercise and 1 manual, the patient's responsibility, 20% of the allowed amount is $6.01 per unit of exercise. Again, just to clarify, there's going to be an MPPR, which is a reduction. There's going to be sequestration. So there's other stuff that comes into play, but this just gives you the general idea. Hopefully, and guys, a bunch of you are on here right now. If you have questions, post your questions, but hopefully this gives you an understanding of the math, where you find your information. CMS fee schedule, choose your state, choose your MAC, whatever CPT codes. This is for speech, for OT, for PT, across the board. I think I covered everything. And then, like I said, just to reiterate, yes, probably the main benefit of going non-par is that extra percentage you can potentially collect. But I think the detriment is you have all the same responsibilities, all the same regulations, all the same compliance issues. And if you just have one situation where you don't collect and that patient got their check and they're like, woohoo, my lucky day, Medicare just sent me a free, $300 check, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. Like that just wiped out, a percentage of your profit margin, certainly for the week, if not the month. So just kind of keep that stuff in mind. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. I'm going to wrap it up here. If anybody's interested, little self-promotion now. So the next round of the Zero to Paid Medicare billing course is starting February 4th. Today is January 24th. Between now and then, for those of you who are already registered or pre-registered, I'm going to be putting out more video content just like this that we'll put into the course. And then there's extra stuff in the course that isn't available to the general public. But if you're wondering, so the idea behind the course, right now it's 8 one-hour sessions. Each session is taught live. I beg you to bring your questions and interact. I don't want to sit here like a talking head for 60 minutes. But that being said, so we go through every component from I've never submitted a claim to Medicare. I don't even have a provider number through I submitted my claims, I posted my payments, I billed the secondary, I posted those payments, I invoiced the patients if I have to. And then from there, sweet, great. I'm glad you liked it, Chris. From there, we go through like how you pick your clearinghouse, how you pick your EMR. If you guys saw the interview with Steven last night from Hello Note, we touch on a lot of nuances because depending on your business and where you are in the business process, you might have different needs that one EMR might be appropriate for and another one might not. We hit on marketing because that's a huge component. Doesn't matter how good you are at being a therapist, if people don't know about you, they can't come find you. And then what I hope to bring to you is the community. Now we've had over 100 people go through the program. I'm generally always available to answer questions. I'm happy to look at denials or rejections and tell you what's going on. I'm happy to look at claims before they get submitted if you're wondering if something's going to get paid. And I'm more than happy to point you in the direction of the people who have the answers that I don't have, because I certainly don't have all the answers. But like I said, I mean, if you're looking at dipping a toe in the Medicare waters, if you're looking at saying, hey, I really want to help this demographic, this population, I know that finances are tight. I know there's a lot of predators out there trying to take advantage of Medicare beneficiaries. And if I don't speak up, they're going to go look for the people who do. Somebody just posted in the group the other day, and I see commercials on TV about, brace companies who are calling Medicare beneficiaries to get them a whole bunch of junky braces because they have knee pain. And I mean, it's just that kind of stuff. If those people don't know about you, they're going to fall victim to that kind of trash. So keep it in mind. And I just think the opportunity of using, the Medicare beneficiary program as a way to reduce barriers to entry. Certainly you guys have seen, and my big push is, look, not everything is skilled care. Not everything is medically necessary. Yes, the evaluation, the education, the clinical reasoning, that is where the strength in our profession lies. But if a beneficiary wants to pay me $200 an hour to help motivate them, to encourage them, to, push them, but it's not medically necessary, the cash market is wide open. There's no regulation that says a beneficiary can't pay me for a non-covered service. And I think we've just taken what we would call a covered service way beyond what it probably actually is. At least for my population, outpatient orthopedic. But anyway, that being said, David, I hope we shared some knowledge today. Guys, enjoy your weekend. It's Friday. I'm going to try and jump in the course this weekend. I'll send out an email and cover Medicare Advantage plans, because that has been a huge question. Lots of you coming in. Should I join Medicare Advantage plans? Should I get contracted? Should I not? There's different plans, and each plan is going to have pros and cons, and we need to discuss it. So guys, this weekend, look for that. I'll send you the email. If you're already in the course, you guys get free access to it. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Catch you guys in the next video.